right, I would like to welcome 50 years. 50 years. Wow. 2 Grammys, 7 American Music Awards, Billboard Awards, Hollywood Walk of Fame, Soul Train Lifetime Achievement Award, Songwriters Hall of Fame. I've been pushing it, man. Give it up, Mr. Robert Kool Bell. How are you, sir?
I'm wonderful. How you doing, Ricardo?
Man, I'm doing great, man. I've been waiting to talk to you. I mean, it's a pleasure to speak to a living legend.
Thank you.
My pleasure. So we got to find out, your illustrious career. You've done everything. I don't know what else is there. What else could you possibly do after 50 years, right, in this business? But I'd like to know, and I'm sure the audience wants to know, where did Kool and the Gang start there? Where did you guys get your start?
We started back in 1964 in Jersey City. And our first names were the Jazziacs. And that was because of the love of jazz. You know, my brother was into John Coltrane. DT was into Cannonball Adderley. You know, I listened to Ron Carter and George Philly Joel Jones and, the jazz guy.
Right.
Then we got involved with an organization called the Soul Town Review. Now, the Soul Town Review was trying to be like the Motown Review. And we became the Soul Town Band. So we had to back up, at least 10 artists that were singing Motown songs. So needless to say, we had to learn these songs from some of your big artists in Motown, the Temptations, Diana Ross and Supremes, Jimmy Walker and the All-Stars. So we became the Soul Town Band. And we did that for maybe about a year. And then we left that organization. And we was working in a club. And one of the master of ceremonies of the Soul Town Review had this idea at a club in Newark called the Blue Note. He had this poster. And the poster had a cube of ice and Kool written into it. And then he had some fire under it, melting the ice in it. We became Kool and the Flame.
Kool and the Flame.
Kool and the Flame. So we held on to that name until we met our first producer and manager, a gentleman by the name of Gene Red. And Gene Red's father worked with James Brown. He said, well, no, we can't use the Flames because you have James Brown and the Famous Flames. So we said, that didn't work. So we thought of a lot of names to call ourselves, and nothing was working. So Gene said, why don't you just call it Kool and the Gang? I mean, because you're jazz, you're backing up the artists with Soul Town, and your music, just call it Kool and the Gang. And that's what we did.
Smart move.
And
smart move.
Yeah, we recorded our first album, single. The single was called Kool and the Gang. The album was called Kool and the Gang. And we introduced ourselves into the business as Kool and the Gang.
That was a smart move. When you guys got into the music business and you decided, when did you know you wanted to write? Like, when was that moment to say, hey, you know what, I want to start writing music. Kool and the Gang is here. Where do we go next?
Well, we started writing in the beginning of the Kool and the Gang. That first album. We were writing along with Gene Red. Songs like Sea of Tranquility or Breathing Soul. And we did one cover on there called Since I Lost My Baby on that album. And we continued to write. We was writing all kind of stuff. I mean, we came up with titles like Funky Granny, Funky Man, Good Times, NT, and it went on and on, all the way up until we got our big hits in the mid-'70s, funky stuff. Hollywood Swinging, Jungle Boogie, and on and on. Summer Madness, Open Sesame, we just write what we were feeling, and as we were growing as a group.
Now, did you know the songs that you were writing were going to be timeless songs? You talk about, like you said, Jungle Boogie, Hollywood Swingers, Cherish, Summer Madness. I mean, the list goes on and on. I don't know how you guys have lasted so long with so many hits after all of these years, and you guys are still going strong. How do you know when you have a hit?
Well, You feel good about it, okay? You know, songs like Funky Stuff and Hollywood Swinging and Jungle Boogie. We felt that Funky Stuff, our late guitarist, Charles Smith,
Okay.
he came up with this guitar part that sounded like two people playing, you know, and so that got to be different. And
Right.
that became a big record. That was number one for about 8 weeks. And then on that same album, we had, Hollywood Swinging and Jungle Boogie. Now, the story behind that, we were with our record company, and the record company said, listen, you guys coming up with territorial hits. At that time, he was talking about Funky Granny or Funky Man or NT, or Who's Gonna Take the Weight, which became a very popular song later. But there was this song called Soul Makusa by Imago Dibango or Dibango.
Yes.
The producer had met with our record company, and our record company said, listen, we want you to meet with this guy who produced the song. And we said, okay. We had one meeting with him, and we weren't feeling him. So we went to the studio, Baggy Sound, Soho area of New York. We went in there at 8 o'clock in the morning. By midnight, we had created Funky Stuff, Jungle Boogie, and Hollywood Swinging. So
all at one night.
Say, no more problems from the record company.
No, all in one night. That's just incredible.
Well, I guess our back was against the wall. Get your back off the wall.
Yeah. You gotta take chances.
Right.
You know, you gotta take chances in this business. Now, what made you like stay in the business? Because I noticed many artists from years ago, they came and went. You know, they left. They had a short stint and they didn't survive. How did you guys, Kool and the Gang, how were you guys able to survive the music business? Because you guys were involved in the music business when it was the music business. It was gritty, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think it was the support of our fan base. And we continued to make changes, you know, each decade. You know, they had counted us out after the first decade, after having Summer Madness and Open Sesame. Open Sesame kind of turned it back around because that was in that movie, you know, Saturday Night Fever. And that became,
I remember that.
Yeah, it became one of your top movies until Michael Jackson came with Thriller. Now, Saturday Night Fever has sold over 20 million records. It was us and the Bee Gees and, you know, Casey and the Sunshine Band, the Tavares.
Right.
And then Michael came back and Thriller sold 30 million. But after that time period, there was this anti-dance music movement going on, and they were burning records in Chicago, and everything was anti-dance. Although we didn't feel that we had our music was disco music, but you could dance off it. But anyway,
Right.
we're on tour with the Jacksons. That's when Michael was there with the Jackson 5.
Yes.
Okay. And Dick Griffey was promoting that tour. Plus, you know, Dick Griffey had sold our records and et cetera. And Dick Griffey came to us and said, listen, you guys are doing pretty good on the tour. I like what you're doing. But I think you need a lead singer. And we said, lead singer? So a lot of the music that we were writing didn't have really a lead vocals on there, but it was open to a lead vocalist. So we met James J.T. Taylor. He was living in Hackensack, and the owner of the studio said, I got somebody that I want to recommend. And so James came to the studio. And we thought about it. He said, you know, you got Lionel Richie with the Commodores, Philip Bailey, Maurice White with Earth, Wind and Fire. Maybe it's time for that.
Yeah, that missing piece, right?
Yeah. So I'm out there hanging in New York, my wife and I, in the city. And we noticed that we was hanging out at Regine's in Studio 54. And we noticed that every weekend there was a ladies' night. I said, ladies' night. So I went back, told the guys, hey, man, I got a great idea for the album. And they said, now what? I said, Ladies Night. He said, yeah, man. Ladies Night. I mean, every weekend there's a Ladies Night. And then I had the song hanging out. So I brought the song to the fellas. And George Brown came up with the music track and also helped with the song, and JT and my brother. And because he said, hey, it's a Ladies Night everywhere. So that was the first single with James JT Taylor. And that record
that was a great song. I remember Studio 54. I've been there once.
Okay.
And you're right, Friday night was Ladies Night.
Oh yeah, that record blew up. You know, the late Frankie Crocker, he broke that record.
Yes.
He broke that record, Ladies Night. Also, Frankie Crocker was involved with Hollywood Swinging. You know, remember they used to call Frankie the Hollywood Rocker?
Absolutely, yeah. Because I know Vaughn Harper. Vaughn Harper and I were really good
my
friends.
buddies back in the day, Vaughn.
Yes, indeed. He, Frankie discovered Vaughn, and I remember hearing, because I grew up in Brooklyn, and I remember hearing the Hollywood Swingers, man. It was every day, all day, every week, all weekend. It was a great song, and it's a classic. It's timeless.
And Frankie also would play Summer Madness after his shows. When he's signing off, you do, there I go. Then you hear, dum, 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 dum. You know, here goes Summer Madness. That was great.
With that bass at the bottom.
Yeah, it's been great, man.
You guys had a great run. I mean, working with the greats, as you said, Michael Jackson, the Jacksons, having toured with them, having so many hits. How did you come up with one song I got to ask you about is Jungle Boogie?
Well, that was that one day in the studio down there in New York at Baggy's. We saw his grooving, and he has such a nice groove to it. And then, I think it was DT did a little holler on the end, like Tarzan and whatever. But then Donald Boyce, who was working for us, he said, I got something for that. So we brought Donald into the studio, and he became the voice of the boogie. All that, I remember those voices and screaming. That was get down. Okay.
That was it, man. I mean, that was just a classic with the high heel shoes and the bell bottom pants.
Oh yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
We didn't know what was going to happen with that. I mean, but that turned our career around in the 70s, And then, like I said, then came Summer Madness and Open Sesame.
Right, because you guys were able to sustain 5 decades, which is remarkable, and in any field, let alone the music business, to go out with hit after hit after hit. Like with Too Hot was another one, a great song, great melody, great bass line, everything was just great, and you guys had a great horn section as well, which kind of solidified a full band, because you guys were like competitive almost with Earth, Wind and Fire, but you guys had your own sound, which was great as well.
Yeah, well, if you go back in the day, you remember Willie Feaster and the Mighty Magnificents and Skip Sonny and the Pace Brothers? They told us a lot of lessons coming out of Jersey, coming to New York to Apollo. These guys was grooving and dancing and spinning their horn. Plus, they had Skip Sonny and the Pace Brothers was 3 singers. So they had the singers and the music and the band. I said, yeah, we got to reach that level with them. We went on to surpass them, but we say, coming out of Jersey City, man, it's show business, man. You got to really get your act together, and we did.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Jersey City is a really cool town. Right next to New York. For those who don't know, I'm sitting here with the legendary Robert Kool Bell from Kool The Gang, co-founder of Kool The Gang, and I love the fact that you guys are so approachable. To have sustained so much talent and so much recognition and to be approachable, which is a beautiful thing. 2 Grammys. I mean, 7 American Music Awards. What was it like going into the Songwriters Hall of Fame?
Wonderful. Because the Songwriters Hall of Fame is where you get the respect from your peers, your songwriters.
Right.
I mean, we have been waiting for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And trying to figure out
what's going on.
They're gonna wake up and smell the coffee.
Do we have to pay them a visit?
Hey,
like, what's taking so long?
But I realized how large the